Welcome to the Explainer. Let me ask you something. Your phone knows your partner's number, it knows the way to that new cafe, it even knows your cousin's birthday. But do you? Today, we are diving deep into how we've started outsourcing our own brains to the little devices in our pockets, and what that really means for how we think and remember in the digital age.
Okay, so here's our plan. We're going to start with the outsourced brain, how our phones became our external hard drives. Then we'll hit use it or lose it. Using GPS is a perfect example. After that, we'll talk about the real price of convenience, and then look ahead to the new memory wars with AI. We'll wrap it all up by asking a pretty big question. What is your mind?
All right, let's jump right into part one, the outsourced brain. And look, this isn't some sci-fi future we're talking about. This is happening right now in all the little shortcuts we take every single day when we let our devices do the thinking for us. Seriously, think about it for a second. When was the last time you actually made an effort to commit a new phone number to memory? Or did you just tap it into your phone, save it under a name, and pretty much forget it existed 5 seconds later? Well, if you struggle to think of one, you are in the vast majority. A whopping 75%, that's 3 out of 4 adults, can't remember more than a handful of phone numbers without reaching for their phone. It's like we've all collectively agreed that this kind of information just isn't worth the brainpower anymore. And there's actually a name for this.
It's called the Google effect, sometimes known as digital amnesia. What researchers like Betsy Sparrow found is fascinating. Our brains, being super efficient, have learned a new trick. Why bother remembering a fact when you know with absolute certainty that it's just a quick search away? So instead of storing the information, we just store the path to get to the information.
And the way this all works is through something called cognitive offloading. You know, every time you type a reminder into your calendar, or jot down a note, or look up a recipe, you're doing a physical thing, typing, to take a mental load off your brain. We are literally handing over cognitive tasks to our devices, often without even realizing we're doing it. So let's see this in action. For part 2, we're looking at a perfect, everyday example of this, the brain on GPS. This is where that old saying, use it or lose it, really hits home. Just look at the difference here. On the left, with an old-school map, you're actively engaged. You're building a mental picture, figuring out your orientation, making a plan. But on the right, with GPS, you're just passively following instructions. Turn left in 200 feet. You're not building a map in your head. You're just a passenger along for the ride. All that mental heavy lifting, it's been completely outsourced. And that passivity has a real physical effect on your brain. See, there's this part of your brain called the hippocampus. It's basically your built-in compass, crucial for creating those mental maps. But study after study has shown that when we just blindly follow GPS, our hippocampus gets, well, kind of lazy. It's a mental muscle, and if you don't use it, your natural ability to navigate starts to fade away. Which leads us to a much bigger and honestly more unsettling question in Section 3. What's the real price we're paying for all this amazing convenience? Are we at risk of becoming, as one writer worried, just empty shells? You know, here's the huge paradox of our time. We feel smarter than ever because we have access to literally all the information in the world. But the internet isn't really designed to help us learn. It's designed to distract us. For a piece of information to become true knowledge, it has to move from your short-term working memory into your long-term memory, and that takes focus. But the endless pings and notifications keep our brains in a constant state of chaos, so that transfer from short-term to long-term memory, it just doesn't happen.
This quote just nails it. As we shape our tools, they shape us back. We think we're in control, that we're just using these devices. But it's not a one-way street. These tools are actively changing our habits, our attention, and even the neural pathways in our brains. We are being rewired.
Now, there's an argument that by offloading simple tasks, we're freeing up our minds for more complex thinking, right? Like, if I don't have to remember directions, maybe I'll get better at chess. But the evidence just doesn't back that up. Think about the legendary London cabbies, who had to memorize 25,000 streets for a test called the Knowledge. It's an incredible cognitive feat. But when those drivers switch to using a GPS, they don't suddenly become brilliant philosophers. That incredible skill of navigation, it just disappears. It's not replaced by anything, it's just lost.
And that brings us to Section 4, because as big as these changes are, the stakes are about to get so much higher. We are now entering what you could call the new memory wars, and it's a fight for control of your own mind. The entire game is shifting. Up until now, most of our AI interactions have been forgetful. You ask a question, you get an answer, and the conversation resets. But that's over. We are now on the brink of AI companions that have persistent, long-term memory. They're going to remember every chat, every idea you had, every goal you've ever told them, everything.
And as researcher Mario Brichik says, this changes, well, everything. Memory isn't just another line of code. It is the foundation of a relationship. An AI that remembers you isn't just a tool anymore, is it? It becomes a partner. And that kind of digital intimacy creates a powerful bond that can absolutely shape how we think and act.
And this relationship creates a really powerful lock-in effect. It happens in 3 stages. First, the AI gets smarter about you the more you use it. Then, it starts to feel like a true mental partner, finishing your sentences, anticipating what you need. And that leads to the final stage, memory lock-in. Can you imagine trying to switch to a different AI after years of building up this shared history? It would feel, as Brechik puts it, like a cognitive amputation, like you're losing a piece of your own brain.
This creates a risk that's way bigger than just data privacy. It introduces a new idea we have to talk about: cognitive sovereignty. This is the fundamental right to think for ourselves, to have our own identity, without it being constantly molded and guided by an external, corporate-owned system.
Which brings us to our final section. To really grapple with all this, we need to ask a fundamental question. What is your mind? And to look forward, we actually have to take a quick look back.
Now, to be fair, outsourcing our memory is not a new idea. Not at all. Humans have been using artificial memory tools for thousands of years. Things like mnemonic devices. Every good boy deserves fudge to remember musical notes. That's an ancient form of cognitive offloading.
This timeline really puts it all in perspective. From the memory palaces of ancient Greece to Roman orators, we've always had tricks to help us remember. But what's happening now is a completely different beast. The leap in scale and intimacy from a simple phrase to a persistent AI that holds your entire life story. It's a fundamental change in our relationship with memory itself.
So, in a world where offloading your brain is the default, what's the most valuable skill you can have? Well, maybe it's the ability to do the one thing technology constantly tries to stop us from doing: to sit quietly, to focus, and to do the hard internal work of deep thinking.
Which leaves us with one last, really critical question to chew on. As these AI companions become our second brains, sometimes remembering our own lives better than we do, who's actually in the driver's seat? When your AI remembers your life for you, who is doing the thinking? Thanks for watching.